Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this. On the undercard of Pat McCormick's next fight, we're going to be seeing the ring return of unbeaten up-and-comer Tia Ayton, as well as former champion Sandy Ryan. I was wondering about her and what the status of her relationship with Matchroom was on the heels of her second professional loss to Michaela Mayer and her third loss overall. We don't yet know who Sandy's going to be fighting, and we don't yet know who young Tia May Ayton is going to be fighting. What we do know is that she made her professional debut under the Matchroom banner not that long ago, the heir apparent to the throne that Katie Taylor will eventually leave behind, at least according to Eddie Hearn. She debuted this past June in the super bantamweight division opposite the ring veteran journeywoman Sarah Orgazi, who she stopped in the third round of a contest scheduled for 6. Now, a lot of times when a fighter debuts at one weight, it's not uncommon that as their career progresses, they move down, kind of like how Errol Spence Jr. debuted just above welter, but eventually moved down to welter. That might be the case for Tia May Ayton. She debuted as a super bantam, but she's so young, I wouldn't be surprised if she campaigns as a bantamweight moving forward. There is but one champion in the bantamweight division, newly crowned undisputed champion Shernika Johnson. That's at 118. At 122, Ellie Scottney is in the process of her undisputed run. And we're a ways out from young Tia May Ayton fighting either of those fighters. I expect her to fight and bring along fights for at least the next year, year and a half, maybe 2. She finished her opponent so fast in her last fight that if she does that again, that leaves the door open for a third fight in what remains of this year. She's already fought in June, she's gonna fight again in September, and if she does to the next girl what she did to Sarah Orgazi, you could schedule her at least one more fight before the year is out in, say, November or December. That's what she needs right now more than anything. Experience. Sandy Ryan. Sandy is coming off of 2 back-to-back losses to Michaela Mayer in what were very competitive fights, and I wondered if Matchroom would keep her on board given those circumstances, but apparently they are. She's going to be boxing on this undercard as well against an opponent that has yet to be announced, and I don't know if this is going to be a super lightweight contest or a welterweight contest. Sporting a professional record of 7 wins with 3 losses and 1 draw, 3 knockouts, the reigning undisputed super lightweight champion still is Katie Taylor, and I don't see Sandy landing a fight with her. At welter, she's already been there and done that with Michaela Mayer 2 times. There's only one other champion at the weight, and that is Lauren Price. And I don't think it's worth rolling the dice with Lauren Price at this time. That is a fight that Sandy can save for later. Coming off of 2 back-to-back losses, it doesn't make sense to fight Lauren now, or any time in the near future. It makes more sense to get a head start on Lauren by moving up to junior middleweight, where there are some fights that she can have in the interim while she waits for Lauren to eventually move up. I think it's time for Sandy to abandon ship at 147 and go to 154. Remember that both Terry Harper and Natasha Jonas, who started out at 130 pounds,
they were able to win titles at 154. Sandy Ryan is naturally bigger than both. So if those two can win titles up there, Sandy can win titles up there.
In the interim, while she rebuilds herself and waits for Lauren Price to eventually move up, because eventually she's going to have to, Sandy can challenge Canada's own Mary Spencer for what is Mary Spencer's WBA title. She can challenge the winner of Emma Kozin versus Cecilia Brækhus for the WBC and WBO titles.
Give a good odds to win either of those fights. There is the reigning IBF champion of the United States, O'Shea Jones, unbeaten in 9 professional bouts. I would save O'Shea for last.
She is quite formidable, and now is a less than ideal time to challenge O'Shea for what she's got. I don't know if this is what Sandy and Matchroom are planning. I don't know if this is what they're going to do. This is just what I think they should do. Move up to 154, get a head start on Lauren, so by the time she moves up, you've got one or some alphabet titles.
Build that fight.
Put distance between yourself and those 2 losses to Michaela Mayer. The subject of Matchroom's continued promotion for women boxers has become quite the hot topic as of late, it being that MVP has fast become the flagship promoter for women boxers all around the world, from anywhere in the United Kingdom to the United States, and people were left wondering, is Matchroom not going to promote women anymore? This would seem to answer that question, because it seems they're still promoting Sandy Ryan and, of course, Tia May Ayton, Meatball Molly McCann, who they just signed. Sky Nicholson is scheduled to return very soon. And, of course, there is Shannon Ryan and Katie Taylor.
They still promote them. The stable is not as robust as it used to be, but like I've been saying, I think that's because they're saving room for some new additions.
I think they're going to keep a close eye on those amateurs that come out of the LA Games.
The Olympics.
So they've not abandoned ship. Reports of Matchroom's departure have been greatly exaggerated. They're still in the game, still in the running.
Yo tengo 22 años y soy campeón del mundo. Él tiene 27 y todavía no ha hecho nada.
For the non-Spanish-speaking subscribers here on the channel, what Xander Zayas said in reference to Virgil Ortiz.
Xander was responding to those food emojis that Virgil posted to his social media after Xander's fight with Jorge Garcia, implying that Xander is food.
To that, Xander stated, I'm 22 years old and I'm already world champion, and you're 27 and haven't accomplished anything.
Ooh.
To that, Virgil prepared a very lengthy response. He took to his social media and said, Xander, first off, congratulations on your win and becoming a world champion. You were eventually going to do it, so I'm not surprised. But let's keep everything a buck. You got a gift. My last 2 opponents were top 10 in this division. The opponent you just fought has a 33-4 record and barely scratches the top 15 mark. All facts here. Try and dispute them if you want. If I had won my world title against your opponent, they would be tearing into me. They'd be tearing me to shreds right now. It's okay for you, though, because you're young. There's not a whole lot expected out of you right now. We're at different levels. My fight against Antonio Orozco, his only loss was to a world champion back when I was 21, was harder than your last fight. Since you want to talk about what have we done at our ages, the other key difference between your last fight and mine is that for some odd reason, my fight against Madrimov, clearly the better fight in terms of skill and popularity, wasn't made into a world title fight for the vacant belt. Almost like the vacant belt was being held for somebody. You can say all you want that I haven't achieved anything, but I've definitely proved more than you have. I've beaten several fighters who've become world champion. One who I called for to fight and knew I could beat at 140, well, he had a world title, but I just never got the opportunity. Mighty Mo Hooker, all love to him, that's my boy.
Not if you're saying you'd kick his ass.
One who had only just lost to arguably the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world to fight before, even though I was the #1 fighter and next in line for the belt, it's not like it's my fault I didn't get the shot. Enjoy the belt while you have it.
We know that at welterweight, Virgil had a series of health problems, bouts with rhabdomyolysis that hurt his schedule. He might have been a champion down there, you never know, if it wasn't for that.
And the fights that Virgil has had more recently are against respectable opposition. Sergey Boachuk, Israel Madrimov. Though personally, I don't actually think their quality of competition is that far off. Consider that where Virgil fought a former champion in Israel Madrimov, Xander fought a former champion in Patrick Teixeira, and neither one of those two champions were champions for very long. Going over their resumes feels like splitting hairs because even if Virgil's quality of competition is better than Xander's, it's not by much.
Slightly better.
Things are starting to get nasty between them. I don't expect these two guys to hold hands and go skinny dipping together, obviously. They're adversaries. They are rivals. So things are bound to get nasty. Things are bound to get less than cordial. I will say that Xander's Espanol is a lot better than Virgil's. Virgil is a Joe No Sabo. That kid don't speak a lick of Spanish. This is one of the better fights to make anywhere in between 154 and 160. But I don't think we're on the eve of this fight. No, I don't think we see this one in the near future. I think eventually we'll see it when they're both at 160. I give Xander 1 or 2 more fights before he has to move up.
Same with Virgil.
And when you're talking about fighters that fight every 6 months or every 8 months, 1 to 2 more fights means about a year, maybe a year and a half before we see them fight each other.
Maybe longer.
Now what Xander said, and what do I think about it? That at 22 years old, Xander is already a world champion, where Virgil has yet to even fight for a full title. If he hasn't yet, that boils down to chance, circumstance, and failure on his promoter's part. That, well, if Virgil hasn't fought for a world title yet, some of the blame has to go to Golden Boy, because he's been WBC interim champion for a little while now.
He won it in the Bohachuk fight.
But since having become WBC interim champion, I haven't seen Virgil put pressure on Sebastian or Golden Boy put pressure on Sebastian to fight Virgil. That should be an easy enough fight to make. Virgil is in line. What are they waiting for?
Isn't Virgil recovering from a hand injury?
Well, that's this kid's problem. Every other fight, he's got some kind of medical issue. Rhabdomyolysis, injured hand, he stepped on a Lego.
Jesus Christ!
Postmodern fighters are always sick. They're always injured. There's always something wrong with them.
Jesus Christ!
You know, that's the fight that Virgil and Golden Boy need to go after. They need to go after the Sebastian Fundora fight. That's the one I want to see him in. And if he has that fight, and he wins that fight, it's going to be a lot harder for Xander to say anything.
He's talking shit.
At least momentarily, what he said was true. At 22 years old, Xander is already a world champion, whereas Virgil has yet to accomplish that. That's just the reality. At least at the moment. We can split hairs over who's got the better resume, but I just wonder, 2-3 years from now, are people gonna look back at Sergey Bohachuk and Israel Madrimov as big wins, big names on Virgil's CV?
Are people gonna look at Jorge Garcia as a big name on Xander's CV?
Likely not. These two boys gotta fight. They gotta fight. But I don't see the fight between them happening anytime in the near future. I give it a year, year and a half, maybe more, before they actually fight each other. Even though Virgil Ortiz is a Joe No Sabo, this still has the right ingredients to be a huge fight. That Mexico versus Puerto Rico rivalry.
Yo no hablo español.
They could really bring the American fight fans out with this one. The Puerto Rican fans, the Mexican-American fans, everybody. This has the potential to be a super fight, but you have to let it build. If you want it to be as big as it can be, you do have to marinate it a bit.
You gotta let the fighters talk their shit.
Bud is one of those guys. He just locks in. He just locks in, especially when you doubt him. So yeah, it's a really interesting matchup. I think of it more from psychological than anything, you know, because on paper it's like, yeah, but he's a super middleweight. He went up 3. Now Terrence is going up 3 weight classes. He had a little trouble with Madrimov. So on paper it's like, yeah, of course it's Canelo. But when you think about it from a psychological standpoint, it's like, I don't know, man. Bud's different.
Boxing insider Rick Glaser seemingly echoing Chris Algieri's sentiments that Bud is different, Terrence Crawford is different. Unlike the guys that have just been going up there and boxing Canelo for the money, Terrence is in it for more than just that. Rick Glaser said, I know it's hard for some of you to fathom, but Terrence Crawford is fighting Canelo for one reason, and one reason only. It's about legacy. I realize some of you short-sighted bastards think it's about the bag, but that's not the case for Crawford, as Crawford wants to be everything a fighter is supposed to be in boxing, and that is about legacy through challenging himself. September 13th, on the scene at Allegiant Stadium, or on the screen on Netflix, you will witness what exactly that legacy will be. Terrence Crawford is going for all the gusto, while other fighters in this era talk big, but avoid the biggest challenge is enjoy your Friday.
My perspective on why Terrence is fighting Canelo is not as wide-eyed or naive as Rick's. I don't think legacy is the only reason. It's the marriage of legacy and finance.
It's both. If it were just about finance, then he would have fought Conor McGregor for the $200 million he was offered to fight Conor McGregor.
If it were just about money.
And if it were just about legacy, well, he would have stayed at junior middleweight, as he stands a better chance of beating those junior middleweights than he stands of beating Canelo at 168. It very much is a challenge. But I'm tired of repeating myself. I'm tired of pouring sugar on shit.
Explaining the same thing to obsessed Canelo Alvarez fans who are overprotective of that fighter and are only taking shots at Terrence because they're scared.
I see the bitch in you. I can see that you're scared because you guys didn't do this much complaining when it was Jermel Charlo or Jaime Munguia or Edgar Berlanga, John Ryder. You guys weren't complaining like this and questioning those fighters' motives. Their motives were obvious. They wanted to fight Canelo for the money. So why should you act any different if Terrence wants to fight Canelo for the money? Let's just say that's what it is.
I'll be your Huckleberry.
Say the only reason that Terrence wants to fight Canelo is for the bag. How is that any different from Edgar Berlanga? How is that any different from Jaime Munguia? I mean, do you think that many guys would have signed up to fight somebody as decorated as Canelo if there weren't a big bag attached?
No, they would have avoided him.
A guy who's been there and done that with a who's who of fighters anywhere in between 154, 160, 168, and 175. If there were not a big financial incentive to fight Canelo, they wouldn't want to fight Canelo. So rest assured, the majority of these guys that have had a Canelo fight or still want one only want one for the bag. So why does it bother you if it's Terrence?
They are prize fighters at the end of the day. Of course he's fighting for a big prize.
And so is Canelo. Why do you think he's fighting Terrence? Because they're offering him a huge bag to do it. It's not one way. And at the end of the day, Canelo had to fight somebody. If he wasn't going to fight David Benavidez, and he wasn't going to have a rematch with Dimitri Bivol, who would you have had him fight?
Stop whining.
Ever since this fight became a thing, I see a lot of Canelo's fans taking shots at Terrence, saying that he's only doing it for the money.
Oh, as opposed to Canelo, who's fighting for free.
Why is Canelo fighting Terrence Crawford again?
Ka-ching!
So let's just stop with the grab-assing. I'm a fan of Terrence Crawford, but I'm also a fan of Canelo Alvarez, and I don't question either of their motives for facing each other. They're doing it because it's a high-profile fight. They're doing it because they're both legacy fighters. They both have legacies, and they both stand to make a boatload of cash fighting each other.
That is what Rick Glaser was addressing in his lengthy tweet, that there are some people out there that are convinced Terrence is only doing this for the bag.
As opposed to all the other fighters that fought Canelo who didn't do it for the bag, they just wanted a trip to the hospital. That's why Caleb Plant did it. He didn't do it for the money. He wanted to be left slumped over the ropes, knocked out.
It all makes sense.
Canelo's been around far too long for you guys to be this overprotective of him. He can take care of himself. That's literally what you pay to see him do. To see him handle his business, and he's going to in September.
There's no need for the narratives. There's no need for the crying, the bitching, the moaning, the peeing, and the shitting.
The only reason I can think of that you're doing all that where you weren't doing that with the other guys Canelo fought is this guy makes you nervous.
You're scared Canelo's gonna lose.